Have you ever watched an elderly loved one reach for something, and for a split second their hand hesitated? Maybe it was a cup, a button, their phone, something they've held 1,000 times before. And you told yourself, oh, that's just age catching up. But deep down something didn't feel right. You just couldn't explain it. A tiny moment easy to ignore, but a moment that might actually mean more than you realize. Now imagine this. What if I told you that one simple hand movement, something you can test in less than 10 seconds, could reveal one of the earliest warning signs of a stroke? Yes, before any slurred speech, before any facial drooping, before any collapse or emergency, the body whispers. It sends subtle signals long before it screams. And the hands, especially in seniors, are often the very first place those whispers appear. I've seen it too many times in my years working with older adults. Families come in saying, we thought it was nothing, just normal aging. But by the time the major symptoms show, the damage has already begun. And the heartbreaking part? Most strokes don't arrive suddenly. They build quietly, slowly, silently, until one day everything changes. Every year, thousands of seniors experience what we call silent mini-strokes. Small interruptions in blood flow to the brain that go unnoticed. No dramatic symptoms. No big warning. Just tiny changes. A weak grip. A slow finger movement. A hand that can't do what it used to. These signs are so easy to overlook. So easy to explain away. But if you catch them early, if you act early, you can protect someone you love from something life-changing. And that's why this video matters. Because by the end of today's video, you'll know the exact hand movement every senior should try. The one test that can show you early neurological weakness. And 5 hidden, commonly ignored signs linked to stroke risk that most families never talk about. Not because they don't care, but because no one ever taught them what to look for. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. It's about giving you the tools to protect the people who once protected you. So before we dive in, do me one favor. If you're here because you care about someone, a parent, a grandparent, an elderly neighbor, or even your future self, go to the comments right now and type, I'm here. Let me know you're ready to learn something that could genuinely make a difference. And while you're at it, make sure you subscribe to Golden Years Guide. Because every week, we share senior health tips designed to keep your loved ones safe, strong, and independent for as long as possible. Alright, take a breath. Let's begin. Key sign number 1. A weak or delayed hand squeeze. And this one is so simple that most families overlook it completely. I want you to picture something. Imagine your father, or any elderly loved one, reaching out to shake your hand. A moment you've shared 1,000 times. But this time, something feels different. Not painful. Not dramatic. Just weaker. Softer. Maybe even delayed, as though it took them a moment to gather the strength. And it's so easy to explain away, right? You tell yourself, he's just tired. Or, she probably didn't sleep well. Or the classic one, it's just old age. But here's the truth many people don't realize. The hands are often the first place you notice changes in brain function. A weak or inconsistent squeeze can be the body's quiet whisper. A gentle warning that something upstream, something in the brain or circulation, isn't working as it should. See, grip strength is more than muscle. It's a reflection of healthy blood flow, nerve communication, and brain function. So when the brain isn't getting enough oxygen, or when the neural pathways begin to weaken, the hand responds almost instantly. Here's what most families get wrong. They confuse a sudden weak grip with arthritis. But arthritis doesn't usually cause rapid changes. Arthritis is slow, predictable, progressive. A sudden drop in hand strength, especially on one side, is different. And it deserves attention, not panic, just awareness. So here's something practical you can do. A simple test. I call it the 10-second hand squeeze test. Once a week, ask your loved one to squeeze your hand, or a softball, for 10 seconds. Not hard. Not painful. Just steady pressure. If one hand feels noticeably weaker, or if the squeeze fades halfway through, that's worth noting. And listen, if you're still watching and learning something new right now, go ahead and hit the like button so this message reaches more families who need it. Now, grip strength isn't the only sign. Sometimes the warning doesn't show up in strength at all. Sometimes, it shows up in how the fingers move. Let's go deeper. Key sign number 2, the finger tap delay test, the viral hand move. Alright, now we get into the hand movement I mentioned earlier. Something so simple yet surprisingly revealing. Here's what I want you to do with your loved one. Ask them to tap their index finger and thumb together quickly. Just like a snapping motion, but without the sound. Tap, 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 tap. As fast and as evenly as they comfortably can. Now you might think, that's too simple to mean anything. But trust me, this tiny motion tells a big story. Because this move tests fine motor control. And fine motor control is directly connected to the brain's ability to send quick, precise signals to the hand. So when something disrupts that path, like reduced blood flow, nerve changes, or early neurological stress, this tapping movement becomes slower, or uneven, or they get halfway through and suddenly stop. And this is where families get confused. They often say, it's just stiffness. But here's the thing. Stiffness doesn't cause inconsistent tapping. Stiffness doesn't cause sudden pauses. Stiffness doesn't cause one hand to lag behind the other. Those changes usually point higher up, toward the brain. So here's a simple actionable step. Ask your loved one to do 10 taps on each hand. Nothing stressful. Nothing uncomfortable. Just 10 taps. If one hand is noticeably slower, or if the taps lose rhythm halfway, or if they struggle to lift the fingers as quickly, that's a sign worth monitoring. And let me say this gently. If you're getting real value from this video, and you still haven't subscribed to Golden Years Guide, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button now. Or I want you to scroll down and tell me why. I'm serious. Go comment, here's why I haven't subscribed. Because if this information is helping you, we want you in this community. Now we've talked about grip strength and finger speed. But what happens when the brain starts to tire before the body does? That's where things get even more interesting. Let's move to the next sign. Key sign number 3, sudden hand fatigue during simple tasks. Now let's talk about something many families notice, but almost nobody takes seriously. Sudden hand fatigue. Maybe you've seen this in someone you love. Your mother starts chopping vegetables, something she's done her whole life, and only a few minutes in she stops. Her hand suddenly feels heavy. She shakes it out and says, my fingers aren't listening today. Or maybe your grandfather sits down to write a short note, and halfway through he has to put the pen down because his hand gave out. Not because of pain, but because the muscles suddenly feel weak, tired, or uncoordinated. You might think it's nothing, just aging. Or maybe they didn't sleep well. Or maybe they're dehydrated. But here's what most people don't know. The hands are extremely sensitive to early neurological changes. The muscles in the hand are small, precise, and rely on perfect communication from the brain. So when the brain isn't getting enough oxygen, or when the neural pathways are struggling, fatigue often shows up in the hands long before we see speech issues, balance problems, or confusion. This is why sudden hand fatigue is important. Not panic-worthy, just worth noticing. But here's the mistake nearly every family makes. They tell the senior, just rest. Or, it's normal at your age. And in that moment, they miss an opportunity. Because the body is giving a clue. A quiet signal that something might need attention. So what can you do? Here's a simple, gentle test. Ask your loved one to hold a light object for 20 seconds. A spoon. A TV remote. Even a small rolled-up towel. Watch both hands. Does one hand tire faster? Does it start to shake? Do the fingers loosen or drop the object sooner? Yes. That's information. Not a diagnosis. Just something to keep in mind. Something that tells you the hands may be reflecting what the brain is feeling. If you agree that this is something families overlook way too often, go ahead and comment yes below. Let's see how many people have witnessed this in someone they care about. But we're not done yet. Because hand fatigue isn't the only quiet sign the body gives. Sometimes, the fingers reveal a truth we'd rather ignore. Let's take a look. Key sign number 4. Involuntary finger drift or curling. Now I want you to picture this simple test. Ask your loved one to hold their hands straight out in front of them, palms down, fingers relaxed. Easy, right? But here's what you need to watch for. Does one hand slowly drift downward? Just a little bit at first. Barely noticeable. But you can see it? Or do the fingers on one hand begin to curl inward on their own? Not tightly, just a soft, subtle fold that they didn't intend. This is one of those clues that almost nobody talks about. Yet it's one of the most telling. because involuntary drift or curling can indicate early motor pathway weakness. These pathways are the communication highways between the brain and the muscles. When the brain starts to struggle even slightly, those pathways lose strength, and the hands, being incredibly sensitive, reveal it first. Here's what many families misunderstand. They look at the drifting hand and say, "Oh, that's just old age." But aging doesn't usually cause asymmetrical movement. Both hands should behave similarly. When one behaves differently, something deeper may be happening. Again, this isn't about fear. It's about awareness. So here's a simple step you can take. Do a 10-second hands out test once a week. Hands up, palms down, arms steady. Watch for drift, curling, or shaking. If one side changes consistently, that is worth noting. And let me be honest with you. If you've watched this far, it tells me something important. You actually care. You want to protect your loved ones. You want to understand these signs before it's too late. If you like what you are learning here now, why not subscribe to Golden Years Guide right now? Hit that subscribe button now. If you're still hesitant, comment "no subscribe" below and tell me why. I'm truly curious. Now, let's move on. Because the next sign, the one we're about to talk about, is one that even many doctors agree families ignore far too often. We need to talk about it. Key sign number 5. Loss of hand coordination during daily tasks. Imagine this. One day your loved one reaches into their pocket for a coin and fumbles. It's not a slow, steady decline. It's sudden, awkward, like their fingers forgot the routine. Or maybe they've always poured tea without spilling, but now they knock the cup once in a while. They drop things they've held for years, keys, a pen, a pair of glasses, and it happens more often than you'd expect. These tiny moments seem small, but they pile up into something you can't ignore. Microcoordination, the small, precise movements your fingers make, depends on clean, fast signals from the brain. When blood flow to certain brain areas dips, or when those neural pathways get a little frayed, the fine-tuned control that keeps fingers steady begins to wobble. Tasks that used to be automatic suddenly require thought. That's a red flag because the brain's control over those tiny muscles is usually very robust. It doesn't fail suddenly without cause. A big mistake families make is writing it off as clumsiness. Older people get clumsy, they say. But real age-related clumsiness is gradual, months or years of small changes. A sudden change in coordination, especially on one side or during specific tasks, is different. It's a sign that something in the nervous system may be struggling, and it deserves attention. Here's something you can do right away. Build a gentle routine of finger mobility exercises. No heavy lifting, just short, consistent practice. Try the finger tap move we talked about, 10 taps on each hand twice a day. Add simple things like picking up a penny and placing it in a cup, buttoning and unbuttoning a shirt slowly, or rolling a small ball between thumb and fingers. These exercises don't fix everything, but they help keep neural pathways active and give you a way to monitor change over time. If you'll try this exercise with a loved one today, comment "exercise" below. And seeing these signs can feel scary, which brings us to something important. It's heartbreaking watching someone you love show signs of weakness, especially when you're not sure what those changes mean, or whether you should worry. There's a special kind of fear that comes with seeing a parent's hands tremble, or noticing them struggle with something they've done their entire life. And the hardest part? Most families don't want to overreact. They don't want to embarrass their loved one. So they stay quiet, hoping it's nothing, while the fear grows silently inside. But now you're not powerless anymore. These signs are not a diagnosis. They don't guarantee danger, and they don't mean something bad will happen. What they do mean is awareness. They mean you understand the early language the body speaks. You can pay attention. You can notice patterns. And you can act before problems grow into something bigger. So today, take just 10 seconds. Try the simple hand movement, the grip check, the finger tap, the hands out test, with someone you care about. 10 seconds is nothing when life is busy, but those 10 seconds could reveal something you've been missing. And if everything looks normal, beautiful. That means peace of mind. If something seems off, you've caught it early, when there's still time to respond. Because awareness is love. Patience is love. And when you show up consistently for a senior you care about, even in small ways, you're giving them dignity, protection, and a better chance at long-term health. Every tiny action matters. And sometimes, the smallest habits create the biggest safety net. So to recap, weak grip, uneven finger taps, sudden hand fatigue, finger drift, and difficulty with small tasks. These 5 subtle signs are worth paying close attention to. They may seem small, but small signs often come before big changes. And the families who notice early are the families who protect early. Which of these signs have you noticed in an elderly loved one? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help another family recognize something they've been overlooking. And if this video gave you clarity, if it gave you even one insight that could help your parent, grandparent, or someone in your community, consider subscribing to Golden Years Guide. We're building a compassionate community where senior wellness, dignity, and awareness come first. Thank you so much for watching. Stay informed, stay compassionate, and I'll see you in the next video.